Yeah, but they're
you
neat.
guys think.
But it's gotta be, it's a question related to imaging and valuation, sharing, and what the hell's going on?
And
How
growth.
does that happen?
Huge growth.
Okay, growth, I don't know.
My answer is going back to this new language. Somebody is betting that the world is changing and the language of the future is actually images. And is it worth the money or not? I don't think I'm here to say, but I think the more interesting question is what is the next language beyond imaging? I don't think I'm in a position to claim even what is the return on investment.
Well, somebody's put a value on it,
Yeah.
Value the eyeballs.
value of the eyeballs. But but I take pictures today, so what is it that Instagram does that taking a picture and sharing it in post doesn't already do?
Well, it's the community around it. And so, Louis Vuitton already has their Instagram page, and they can sell, featured and special products, and via a community that is very photocentric. And, yes, they don't make any money now today, but Instagram will, definitely grow in terms of that connection with users, and companies have a big plan there.
Do you think it was a threat to long-term to Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook came out with their camera application 4 weeks, 5 weeks after they bought Instagram, and they've been working on it for 18 months, 2 years, and so it was pretty obvious that this is something that Facebook wanted to do and couldn't do right, and it was a preemptive strike. They didn't want Instagram to get any bigger than they already were.
How today, when you think in terms of Wi-Fi offloading, like, okay, I'm going to be on Wi-Fi and I've got relative perceived free communication. It isn't free because somebody's paying for the access in the background. But do users today primarily think in terms of, oh, that's a lot of stuff, I better wait till I get on my Wi-Fi at home to manage it? Or is the immediacy and driving the ability? And I was thinking of starting with Steve, but I actually want to end with you, because I think getting a couple of comments and then go to you will be good.
Well, I know when we launched our iPad 3 Retina support for AP News, we saw considerable Wi-Fi traffic. And that was mostly because people were, one, updating, and two, updating all their other apps. And so when you got our Retina display update, there were a lot of other apps that were going on in the background. That was 3-4 gigabytes for some people. And so I think that you get to a point where it becomes more than 50, 100 megs, that it's, whoa, this is going to take way too long. I need to wait till I get home to do this. And that's kind of, I don't know, that's the biggest thing.
Should a message have popped up and said, this may cost you money?
They do actually. Yeah. Downloads usually through, depending on the interface, will show you this is going to be over a certain size, therefore you need to wait till you're in a Wi-Fi location to download.
Somebody may be innocent and saying, oh, I'd like to.
No, it won't let that happen.
That actually is smart, because it's going to save a heck of a lot more money on customer service calls.
Excellent.
So yeah, the iOS system does pop up, hey, this is greater than whatever it is. Yeah, and now they've increased that to 200 megs. And that's a lot of, when you have 45, apps that you're updating, each one is 100, 150 megs, that adds up pretty quick.
I think the message would come out, this would drain your battery rather than...
Right, then there's that whole thing for now, too, of course.
But again, I think in Wi-Fi offloading there's this aspect, but there is another one. We have seen a very interesting demo from Scalado that showed how we interacted with the screen. This was based on going back to the network and returning. But actually, the late part of this year, the industry is coming up with the first practical wireless display solution, which basically is using Wi-Fi direct, meaning I'm communicating from the phone directly to the screen, to the TV. I'm not going to the local home router and back. It's a direct communication. Why is that important? To me, this is going to change a lot of what we see and what we do. Because this means that for the first time, anything I do on the phone or on the tablet is mirrored to the local screen. So the consumption of content, games, Web browsing is going to be with the handheld device in my hand, but my eyes are going to be on the large screen.
But I mean, I do that on my iPhone and my iPad at home with my Apple TV.
Go back to the home router.
But I mean, it is mirroring.
Exactly.
And
The point is there are two aspects to that. One, to get this to a good user experience, we need to minimize the latency.
Yeah.
The only way to minimize the latency is not to go back to the router, to the home router, and to the TV, but to go direct. That's the big challenge.
I don't find that the latency is a problem at all. I play FIFA with my iPad. I stream things using, I don't know if you've heard of Arrow.com, allows you to basically watch TV on your phone, and with a mirror onto my TV, I don't have a cable connection, and I can stream perfectly. Maybe it takes a second to get going, but I sit my phone down and I can just watch TV.
That's the whole point. The streaming is not the issue. The issue is interaction. If you're playing a game and you're pressing a button, if you don't see the result on the screen, you will be pressing the button again. The whole game changes. So the issue of latency becomes critical when it's an interactive application. And that's really what Wi-Fi Direct solves.
Right.
Because now you're communicating directly with the chip.
Can we expect, and I guess to Steve primarily, ability of the network to work with us to think in terms of what parameters are acceptable, not just simply, hey, a warning message, but least cost mechanisms? I haven't seen any announcement by operators to, let's say, hey, just do this at nighttime, and there's nobody on between 4 a.m., so we'll give you a break on that. Or, in other words, the least cost becomes one where I sort of set parameters of what always update my apps this way. And you sort of get into a growing intelligence, if you will. Do we see that that's likely to happen, that there's more than just, quote, the plan as much as it is the environment and the network?
And if so, kind of how? Because my wife got an iPhone 4S, and we wanted to video chat, and she was at work and I was at home, and it worked fine. And then she was out on the street and it didn't work, and she didn't know why. She didn't understand the difference between connecting on Wi-Fi and 4G, and why can't I video chat now? And that didn't really make sense to her.
Yeah, educating the consumer is one of our biggest challenges, and it's definitely a strong effort this year for us, being that we're doing more within the user interface and user experience. So it's out-of-the-box experience on right documentation, right material to show them, here's what you can do, here's, when you turn the device on, maybe it has that on-screen transparent help that says, here, this button does this button does that. And we're trying to do more in the retail store before they leave, to show them how to set it up, get your contact syncing. If you're on an Android phone, get your Google account set up and have that all start syncing before you leave. Or if you're iOS, get your .NET account set up or iCloud account set up. So doing more of that prior to the consumer leaving, so we don't try to reduce the number of calls coming back.
What about the area of tablets versus smartphones? Steve, if you, with the more people getting iPads and tablets, is the use profile characteristic, if you sort of looked at your network traffic on smartphones versus tablets, what would you see is different? Anything?
Yeah.
Other than taking voice out.
Yeah.
Voice is typically...
I would say it's pretty similar. For the fact that, yeah, you have a bigger screen, so you may do certain things you might not do on your smartphone. So we are more inclined to maybe watch a consumer movie or watch something on the bigger screen, whereas, my kids sit there and just grab my phone off my desk and go stream Netflix while they're on the couch because they don't get it. They just want to get something very convenient for them, and that's what that generation is used to. But I think the data is fairly comparable, because more and more apps are becoming cross-platform compatible, so it is whatever device is convenient.
One study that I saw some time motion and trying to get some data on this suggested that at least the tablet user is the segment of use time is a longer duration than the smartphone. The smartphone will tend to be more incremental, and a tablet would be a little more extended, meaning if they were looking at rich media, it would be a longer period of time. And I think that's sort of an interesting possible use scenario. I was also thinking in terms of what they do, in the sense that, particularly since this is discussing images, that the tablet is probably more of receiving, downloading activity, and there's probably more tendency for uploading, not exclusively, but more uploading going on apply the smartphone.
Yeah, I mean, we see that at the AP. I mean, the iPad is really, not only is the hours different, especially later in the evening, but much longer session times, but less frequent. And iPhones, more so with push notifications especially, we see these huge jumps in our traffic anytime we send out a push alert, and it's almost, 80, 90% from phones versus tablets. Tablets is more of you're at home, you're on the couch, you're reading your longer form stories. We find people are checking in 3, 4, 5 times a day with their phone and kind of browsing photos and reading short